Alright guys, I'm filming on an iPhone today because I want to get this review done rather quickly. I don't want to have to deal with all the mumbo jumbo of hooking the camera up to the computer and whatnot. So I'm doing a review today on the Tamron 70-200 f2.8 lens for a Nikon mount. And when I was looking to purchase this lens myself, I searched for reviews probably the better of 2 hours, all over the internet, and there's not many out there. There's only like 3 or 4 good ones on YouTube, and even at that, they don't really show you too many images that have been taken with this lens. So I'm going to go ahead and lay a lot of the myths to rest today on this lens, tell you what I like about the lens, what I don't like about the lens, and so on and so forth, and I'll show you some images that I've taken with the lens. So first off, it's a very nice piece of glass. Obviously, I mean, it's a 77 millimeter filter size, so it's just as big as the Nikon 70-200 f2.8, but just a fraction of the price. So that's where it kind of scares people, because they say, okay, well, if this lens is, a third of the price of the Nikon lens, then, if there's obvious differences. Yes, there are, but there's not, in my opinion at least, there's not $2,000 in difference between this and the Nikon lens. There's just not. So here's the autofocus on it, if you can hear this. I'm just pointing at a cardboard box just laying up against the wall over there. Already focused. So just to prove it, I wasn't already preset, I'm going to take it into manual focus, mess it up a little bit, go back into auto. Okay, so, slower than the Nikon, yes, but if you're a portrait photographer like I am, landscape photographer, it works out perfectly fine. So here are the kind of pros and cons about this lens compared to the Nikon. So this lens does have a little bit slower of an autofocus on the lens. If you're a sports photographer, I would recommend that you turn off this video now and go buy the Nikon lens, because with sports, you got to have an autofocus that's just dead on every single time. I don't do a ton of sports. This is still good for sports. It's just not going to give you as many frames as you could get with the Nikon lens, because it doesn't focus quite as fast. So as far as sharpness, let's talk about sharpness goes. Everyone says, Nikon lenses just kill everything. They're sharper than any other, Sigma, Tamron, whatever. It is true, but most people cannot tell the sharpness difference between this lens to a Nikon lens, because I have a lot of buddies in photography that swear by Nikon lenses, and that's all they'll buy. I showed them some images I took on this, and they said, it's about time you finally bought the Nikon 70-200. What have we been telling you this whole time? Don't buy Sigma, Tamron. It was the Tamron, and they were literally, just blown away with the sharpness of this lens, being this not a Nikon. Tamron is not a bad name in lenses at all. It's actually a very good alternative if you don't have the money for some of the higher end Nikon lenses. So Sigma, if you're asking me between Sigma and Tamron, I would definitely go with Tamron. Main reason being the build of the lens. When this comes straight out of the box, I mean, you can tell it is built very well, like the Nikon. Now, I'm sure the Nikon is built a little better, which adds on to the price, but this is still a very sturdy, very well-built lens. And you can tell it, when you hold it. A lot of things, when you hold something, you can tell, hey, this is really plasticky, you can tell it's going to crack or whatever. This is actually built really well. I have shot on the Sigma version of this and held it, and it does feel really cheap. And when I'm cropping in the images, when I'm cropping the images on the Sigma shots, you do get pretty blurry. This one you can actually crop. The 100% crop on this is not bad at all. It's actually really, really good, really sharp. I'll show some images that I took with this lens at the end of the video. But anyway, this lens here is mounted on my Nikon D3 camera that I use, D300 camera that I use right now. I'm getting a D3 very soon. And then this will be my backup camera to the D3. But I love my D300. It's served me well for a couple years now, and it takes really, really good pictures with these Tamron lenses. I have another one right here, actually, which is the Tamron 28 to 75, which is kind of like the equivalent for the Nikon 24 to 70. And it also is, same thing, built well, relatively fast focus, very, very sharp. I've done a lot of portrait close-ups with this lens, of the eye and kind of the, very artistic shots where they're kind of looking off, gotten real close, and it's very sharp. I've been very pleased with it. But back to this lens, just to lay some myths to rest here. A lot of people say that this lens here has a terrible manual focus. They say that it takes forever to get the manual focus, to be completely in focus and locked in and blah blah blah. In my opinion, those people just don't know what they're doing, because I can pop this into manual focus, and it's just really a pop of the lens. You pop forward, it's autofocus. You pop back, and it's manual focus. And in my excuse me, in my opinion, I can get it dead on focus in a couple seconds. I believe it's very easy to do. So that being a myth, it's really just kind of personal preference. Maybe they have bad vision. I have glasses, so whatever. That's one of the things. Second thing is really a big selling point actually about this lens was the fact that it still had that pro look, of the Nikon 70-200. As bad as it sounds, a lot of customers and clientele really do pick you based on how your equipment looks a lot of the time, because they just don't know any better, They don't know all about aperture and shutter speed and lighting and composition. They just say, oh, that looks like a really nice camera. We should use him. He knows what he's doing. So it really still gives you the, it's the exact same size as the Nikon 70-200 f2.8, and it's the same, pro build. It's very well built. And it's a very, very, nice piece of glass for, yet again, like I said, the fraction of the price of the Nikon 70-200. The lens hood is actually a little bigger than the one on the Nikon. It's a very nice lens hood. And then if you want, I can give you just a little bit of a closer look on the lens here. So here's the lens hood, if you want to get kind of a close look at that. Like I said, I'm filming on an iPhone, so I don't know how good this is going to turn out, but that's that. And here, a really up close and personal look at the lens. Very nice. Definitely gives you the professional photographer appeal when you're out in public with this thing. And I recommend that you only take it in public if you know how to use it, because it does take some time to get used to, composing some shots that, with a new lens. So definitely know what you're doing when you take it out in the field. But practice, just practice is always welcome. But don't, the biggest thing I can give you advice is don't book a customer and, have them pay you if you don't know what you're doing. I normally say, all the time, I'll say, hey, call my, a couple friends up. Hey, you have a baby, right? Yeah. Hey, do you mind if I photograph it? Is it cool if I, come take my new lens and, get some really cool portraits, test it out? And hey, you have a dog, or I just call a bunch of my friends to see what they have, and I, just photograph a bunch of random things and practice. And then, once you get really good with your equipment and really know your equipment, you can really start making some good money doing photography. But me, it's more of a love than a business for me. I do make money doing it, but if I didn't, I'd be just as fine. I love photography, everything about it. And I have used and owned the Nikon 70-200 f2.8, and now I own one of these, and I can tell you personally, as a photographer of 7 years now, that it is not worth the extra money to get that Nikon unless you are a professional sports photographer. It's just, that's the cold hard truth. Tamron did a really good job manufacturing this lens. So if you have any other questions, please ask in the comments, and please subscribe. And I just remembered something. Since this is an iPhone video, I'm going to be uploading it from the iPhone. I don't think I can add images at the end of it to show you what this took pictures of. But what I'll do is I'll post a link in the description down there to my my Eric Lawton Photography Facebook page. And you can see all the pictures, almost all of them on there were taken with this lens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And yet again, if you have any questions, please ask me. I'd be more than happy to answer them, or even do another review if I left out anything. So Thank you guys for listening, and I hope this helped you in your decision of which lens to buy. Thanks.